All right, welcome MMA fans. Welcome to MMA Al Dente. Today's show is sponsored by Acadia Water, the shitty water from Stop and Shop. I'm going to be going over Amanda Lemos versus Jessica Andrade, the whole card, giving you guys predictions for each fights and a few bets along the way. I want to talk about this card first at the top here and just say, like, if you're a UFC fan, there's a lot of great shit we're going to see here. And when I say great, I mean like shitty, but so shitty it's great. You know, like anytime you go watch Marcin Prachnio and Jordan Wright fight on the same card, it's going to be a great fucking night. These guys are just glass cannons. I love having them in the UFC. And if you're not going to see anything consequential or important, you're absolutely going to see something exciting. And somebody gets knocked out, probably. So there's a lot of that exciting shit there. You've also got Alexander Romanov. Anytime that guy fights, I'm intrigued. He's a fucking grizzly bear. And his fights are always like a bit of a shit show, even if it's just a straight up victory for him. And he's going to be fighting, speaking of shit shows, Chase Sherman. Well, I love Chase Sherman, but man, I was really surprised to see him kind of just fade away. Like it seemed like that guy had a lot of grit and he suddenly lost it. And he wasn't in such a great place mentally in his last UFC fight, and he lost that fight via early finish to Jake Collier, and was subsequently canned. And now they're bringing him back in on short notice. Apparently he signed a 4-fight contract. I'm sure he's somewhat motivated, but he's going up against a guy who is like a fucking minus 1500 Romanov. This fight it's supposed to be a one-sided ass kicking. So it's an interesting fight in that, well, it's really not that interesting, but whatever. There's something to be said about it. I guess I just said it. Whatever. And there's a lot of other exciting shit. Tyson Pedro and the great Mike Jackson. If you don't know Mike Jackson, he's the guy that beat CM Punk in one of the shittiest fights in modern MMA history. But he and Tyson Pedro are returning after 4 years. Always interesting watching someone return after 4 years. Not really Mike Jackson, because he's just really a photographer, but still. And there's a lot of other exciting shit. You know what? Let's just start at the top here. I'm going to get to Amanda Lemos versus Jessica Andrade. I'll give you guys my prediction for that fight and a few bets. Prediction, Lemos via knockout round 1. That's how I'm going. I can see this fight playing out a few different ways, but generally speaking, I think Amanda Lemos, if she does win, it's via early finish. And Jessica Andrade, I think if she wins, it's via decision or later finish. I think she takes over the fight after Amanda Lemos is spent, broadly speaking. But I'm taking Amanda Lemos. I just think Jessica Andrade is the alpha of the division. She's the biggest hammer, the most dangerous fighter, and she's going up against somebody who can challenge her for that position, for that title of being the most dangerous fighter in the division. This is a hammer versus a hammer. And Andrade, you know, even though she's fought a lot of bigger fighters and wilted, she's got a tendency to wilt. And I don't know if you could say she wilted against Weili Zhang, but that was just, you know, that's more of what I see here. I see her just being smoked, essentially. She's shorter. She's got shittier reach, smaller reach, and she's going to be touched by a very powerful striker very early. And I just see a lot of power and crisp technique from Amanda Lemos. I think she's one of the top forces in the division, and Andrade, in some ways, I think is a favorable matchup for her, which, you know, it's tough to swallow that, I guess, for some people, because Andrade is one of the best fighters in the world. But still, with all of her grit, tenacity, durability, versatility, she's going up against a bad matchup for her. I think Amanda Lemos gets it done early, and we'll see if I'm wrong. Of course, if I am wrong, I do expect Andrade to take over the fight. And gun to my head, the next most likely outcome after Lemos getting a knockout in round 1 would be Andrade getting a decision. And that is reflected in my bets. My bets, I like Amanda Lemos via knockout round 1 plus 900. Those are just incredible odds. And you could also get plus 1,600 for her to win round 2. But, I really like round 1 a lot. That's what I'll be betting on. And I'll also probably be attaching her money line, which is plus 175 to a few parlays, because with betus.com, you can attach prop bets to parlays. And as far as a hedge goes, Jessica Andrade winning a decision is plus 250. I think there's something there, and especially if I'm drunk enough, I'm absolutely going to do that. Okay. Co-main event, which, I just looked at Tapology. I don't know. They switched the order around here. Apparently, Alexander Romanov and Chase Sherman might be the new co-main event. I wrote it down third. I thought it was Clay Guida versus Claudio Puelles. But it might be Romanov versus Chase Sherman. Whatever. I'm going with Clay Guida versus Claudio Puelles. This is a very intriguing fight. This could be, we could see the arrival of a contender here if Puelles wins. Not that beating Clay Guida is, the biggest victory there is, but it's a nice solid victory over a name, and it'll be his 5th consecutive win in the UFC. So that's really what would do it. 5 consecutive wins, and especially if he finishes Clay Guida, which is what I'm predicting. If I had to predict something, I would say Puelles wins via submission round 1. But I'm not married to that because he doesn't have a guillotine finish. He's got a lot of, different submissions, but a lot of them it's, arm triangle, arm bar. It seems like, the arm bar could come from the guard, but he doesn't have that guillotine. And watching him fight, it seems like he's got to have control over you. He's got those 2 knee bars in the UFC, both third round, somewhat comeback knee bars. I think Gritzmacher was beating him. I don't know. The first one was an epic comeback, though, over whoever the fuck. I forgot it. But, a knee bar, while that's always possible, hitting a knee bar in the third round and a comeback and whatever, generally speaking, that's not how anybody's going to finish a fight. And Clay Guida, although he is prone to being submitted, he's definitely susceptible to submission still. He's an experienced fighter, and he's got a really good top game, And I think if Clay Guida is able to fight that fight, follow that blueprint that we saw from Gritzmacher, I think Clay Guida is going to walk away with the decision victory. But again, my prediction is Puelles gets it done. I think he's, I feel like he's free to really let his hands and feet go, against Clay Guida, because Guida's 40 years old, of course. That's something. And also Guida's, Guida is a wild man, but he's been caught in submissions plenty of times when he just gets too wild. He gets too wild, and it's like watching a beast getting tamed. I'll always go back to that Jim Miller fight where Jim Miller was cracked. Clay Guida cracked him and then pounced on him. Tried to. Pounced standing up. Jim Miller was still standing. Jim cracked him, hit him with a nice straight right hand or an overhand right, and that hurt Clay Guida. And then Clay Guida kind of just stumbled into a guillotine, and Jim jumped on it. Now, of course, Puelles, he doesn't have a guillotine submission victory yet, but he's got a guillotine in his arsenal. And I like what I see from him. I don't think he's going to win a fight against Clay Guida the way he did against Jordan Levitt, which was full control. But I think he's a guy who's been sharpening his skills, training in America here, where Florida, I think. I don't know. Don't hold me to that, but it's in America somewhere. And he's coming into his own. He's a younger fighter, fresh fighter, 27 years old, I think. And he's, I don't want to say that means that he'll be the better athlete than Clay Guida, because Clay Guida is still, we saw in his last win over Leonardo Santos, he's still got cardio for days, and he's probably going to be the better fighter in round 3. Against most opponents. This one's a toss-up because Puelles has had some really strong round 3s, as I got to earlier. So this one, it could go either way. I think if Clay Guida is wins round 1, if he wins it with top control, he's going to be winning this fight via decision. But I'm predicting he gets overwhelmed on his feet, gets a little uncomfortable, and gets caught in something. I'm going Pugliese submission round 1. As far as bets go, I really like just the under for parlays, under 2.5 rounds, plus 175. I think there's a lot of value there because, these guys are pretty much even on paper, betting-wise, the odds. And if this is an even fight, I think they got that wrong because Pugliese wins this fight, it's probably via submission or finish. And if Clay Guida wins, it's more than likely a decision. Although he's always got, you've always got that option of him fatiguing a fighter and getting a nice Clay Guida finish. And Clay Guida's got great submission skills too. So you never know with that. But in general, I like Pugliese winning submission round 1. That's my prediction. And I like the under 2.5 rounds, plus 175. Next fight, Romanov versus Chase Sherman. I've got Alexander Romanov winning. I mean, if you're going to bet on anything, you may as well bet on Chase Sherman because you could win at incredible odds. And he is a heavyweight. So really, I mean, it's almost foolish not to bet on him. And if you're going to bet on him to win via finish. But I wouldn't be picking around with this because Chase, if he wins, he's probably going to have to win in round 3. And he's going to have to go through fire, go through fucking hell to get to there. So Romanov, I'm predicting he wins via first round TKO. As you might imagine, I have him in the mount when he's getting that TKO. I doubt it ends on the feet. Romanov is just a goddamn beast, and he's gonna have such stronger wrestling than Chase Sherman. Chase is a big, strong guy, but he's gonna be thrown around like a rag doll here. And on top, Romanov is just too much. He's too much for most guys in the UFC, to be honest. But he's definitely gonna pass the Chase Sherman test. So my prediction: Romanov TKO round 1. Next up, Macy Barber versus Montana De La Rosa. I really want Montana to win. If I get drunk enough, I'll probably bet on her. But I'm going with Macy Barber via decision. Macy, she'd been exploited by exposed by Roxanne Modafferi and whatever, and Alexa Grasso. But this is a much different fight. I guess it's not too different. Roxanne Modafferi is deceptively athletic. She was at a disadvantage to Macy Barber, which I think Montana De La Rosa definitely is. But, Roxanne Modafferi is a little bit more athletic, I think, than people give her credit for. I think this will be the fight that I expected then against Montana De La Rosa. I think where Roxanne Modafferi was able to hit those savvy takedowns. And, of course, there was some injury that, she suffered there, Macy, that she claimed threw her off for the rest of that fight. But whatever. My point is, I think Macy Barber's the superior athlete. And Montana De La Rosa, she's tough as all hell. But anytime she wins a fight, she's got to be able to get you down. It comes from the top. Whether she gets the finish or not, she's got to hit that takedown. She's got to hit like 3 takedowns. Or 2 of them. And I don't see her being able to bully Macy Barber. Macy Barber knows probably pretty clearly what she has to do to win this fight. She knows the blueprint, and I expect her to follow that blueprint. I see a lot of the fight being contested on the feet, Macy beating Montana up, and first and foremost, keeping herself away from Montana De La Rosa, where Montana could take her down. I think Montana will survive. Hopefully she gets a takedown, makes it close, steals at least 1 round, if not 2 or 3. But I'm not betting on it. Barber via decision. Next up, Manel Kape versus Sue Maderji. This fight is going to be fucking awesome. My prediction is knockout via TKO. Now, I'm taking Kape via knockout round 2. I mean, this fight, it's tough to imagine Kape being knocked out. I can't imagine him being knocked out, I guess. But if there was ever a fight, this is just going to be a very exciting fight. I think Kape really came into his own these last few wins. And even his 2 losses in the UFC are very close losses. Those are, he distinctly lost the Pantoja fight, I think, but pretty sure he took a round from him. But he absolutely didn't distinctly lose anything against Mateus Nicolau. That was a razor-thin fight. I thought Kopp won it. I thought he should be 3-1 in the UFC at this point. And still, for a guy that's 2-2 with those 2 close losses, he's not too far away from being a title contender. And if he gets a win over Sumudaerji and it's a finish, which would be exceptional, then he's going to be within striking distance of a title shot. And my prediction is Kopp via knockout round 2. I'm thinking it'll happen. I don't think Mudaerji will be able to. I don't think he'll be able to handle Kopp on the feet. I think he'll be trying to. He's a longer fighter and he loves to bang too, but it's just a bad matchup for him. So I'm going with Kopp. I think he's much more dangerous on the feet. And, even though Mudaerji, I don't think has ever lost via knockout, I'm predicting he's going to suffer this one here, just because that's what Kopp's inclined to do, and that's how Kopp's inclined to fight. But I'll say this. I haven't seen the line yet because BetUS didn't release it for submission props for Manel Kopp. But if you see a Manel Kopp via submission in this fight, I would absolutely jump on that. I would jump on it because Mudaerji's got 4 losses. They're all via submission. And sometimes that's just the story of a fight. Like I called Grasso winning via submission. Alexa Grasso over Joanne Calderwood. The only reason I did it is because the deficiency was so clear with Joanne Calderwood. That's such a big hole in her game that it's just, even sometimes, a fighter that you don't expect to fill that hole will fill that hole. And I could see Manel Kopp getting a submission here. But in general, as far as bets go, I attached this to a bunch of other bets. I like the under 2.5 rounds at plus 145. I really like that bet. I think just the way these 2 guys fight, it's going to produce a finish. And if I'm wrong, it's going to be an exciting decision victory for Kopp. But exciting. Next up, Charles Jourdain versus Lando Vannata. Speaking of exciting, this is going to be an awesome fight. I really think this will be razor thin. One way or another, it'll come down to who won round 2, because I'm expecting Vannata to win round 1, Jourdain to win round 3. These guys are both very tough. I don't think either one will get finished. Although, with Jourdain's pressure, it'd be awesome to see him put some guys away in round 3, some more guys. I forgot the guy he put away, but he put away somebody, the slick grappler guy last year. Anyway, I'm taking Jourdain via decision. Just because I like his cardio and I like his pressure. For a guy with such good cardio and such good pressure, he's the guy I bet on when it comes to decisions. I think Vannata will win round 1, like I said. And Vannata, if either guy gets the knockout, the clean knockout, I've got to go with Lando Vannata. I think that guy's really crafty, and we've seen him knock out some deadly strikers himself, McDessie. But I'm betting on Jourdain's toughness and pressure, and well, I'm not betting on it, but I'm picking that. I'm picking based on his toughness and pressure, and I really think Jourdain, he just comes to bang. He comes to bang. He crowds fighters. Vannata will be fighting backwards. Jourdain will be fighting forward, and Vannata's style is not going to win for 3 rounds. I think Jourdain's style is more conducive to a 3-round fight, a decision. Definitely more conducive to any sort of a longer fight. That guy's, that's a very aggressive style, and it's only sustained by his cardio. Again, I pick him to win round 3. I pick him to win the fight. Next up is actually fucking Preston Parsons versus Evan Elder. I think this should be after Jourdain Vannata. And that actually probably isn't right. That's what Tapology had, but there's no way this is the main event of the prelims, this fucking fight. Anyway, Preston Parsons is a welterweight. We saw him fight, I think, on short notice and get knocked out to D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez. Obviously, he was filling in. He had no business fighting D-Rod, and that was last year, I think. And Evan Elder's making his debut here. This guy's coming up from lightweight to welterweight, and he's taking the fight on short notice. Now, Preston Parsons is a guy who's got 9 victories. He's 9-3. All 9 of those victories are submissions, and 8 of them come in the fucking first round. This guy is a storm, and I'm just betting on him. I'm predicting he wins submission round 1, just being the bigger guy, the more fresh fighter, and on paper, at least, the better grappler. Evan Elder, I think, is undefeated. Most of its wins come via unanimous decision or round 1 TKO. But again, he's a smaller fighter here, and he's taking this fight on short notice, which means he might pour everything into round 1. But I see him, unless he's just turns out to be that good, on paper, that being really tough to sustain as a decision victory. And to get the TKO, you generally have to be more powerful. And he's the smaller man here. It just seems like a bad matchup for him. I'm picking Parsons via submission round 1. And I like the bet of under a round and a half at plus 135. Even if Parsons isn't able to get him away in round 1, this guy's a storm. He likes ending fights. And he's fighting a guy who took this fight on very short notice. And who's going to be smaller and doubting himself and everything else. I really like under 1.5 rounds for this fight. Next up, Jordan Wright versus Marc-Andre Barrio. Again, I like under 1.5 rounds for this fight. And I'm not usually big on under 1.5 rounds. It takes something sure for me to bet on that. Like, what the fuck's his name? Misha Serkinov. I'll bet on any Misha Serkinov fight going under 1.5 rounds. And even if I'm wrong, I'll feel good about that bet. But this one here, it features Jordan Wright. Jordan Wright makes me very secure in that under 1.5 rounds type of bet. He's not only offensively good enough to, follow that blueprint of Chidi Njokuani. He's, who Chidi smoked Barrio on February 5th, I think, this year. Smoked him. And he was overwhelmed in 30 seconds. He's never suffered a loss like that. And it was eye-opening. Could be game-changing, too. I don't know. But Jordan Wright absolutely has what it takes to get that done. Having said that, that's not what I'm predicting. I'm predicting Barrio knocks him out. I'm predicting Barrio shows that toughness we've always seen from him, aside from that last fight, of course, and the pressure that he's always brought. And I think in one way or another, that's going to be too much. I'm predicting he gets the win in round 2. I'm not sure if it'll be via clean knockout, which he's got knockout power on the regional circuit and whatever. And since he's come to the UFC, you wouldn't think so, but he's got clean knockouts. And he's also got TKOs. I could see him TKOing pretty much anybody, but certainly Jordan Wright. My prediction, though, is that the chin will give, and he will get a clean knockout, which would be interesting. So I like under 1.5 rounds for that fight. I think it covers pretty much both guys' paths to victory, and you get it at plus odds. So plus 120, which if you had told me a year ago that I'd be betting on under 1.5 rounds for a Marc-Andre Barrio fight, I would have said you're fucking crazy. But that's how I'm going. That's just Jordan Wright is a glass cannon, and he's just not meant to fight to a decision. If you can get anything, I would put my life savings on the fight not going to a decision. But still, I'm confident in 1.5 rounds. Because, again, I'm not talking about some sort of methodical TKO. I'm talking chin. The chin will give. All right. Next up, Dwight Grant versus Sergey Kansoko. What do you want from me? Dwight Grant, I don't know. There was a lot of upside to Dwight Grant, but he's just one of those guys who just sucks the fucking life out of every event he's on, pretty much, aside from when he fought D-Rod. He's 37 years old, which was surprising to me. I feel like I surprise myself every time I look at one of his fights and I look up his resume. I can't believe he's this old. But he's been fighting for 10 years or so. Started when he was 27, 25, whatever. He's old enough. It means he's got the experience, but it also means he's 37. His body's not going to hold up forever. This Sergey Kansoko, he was in the UFC 3 years ago. He's been in the UFC. He just hasn't fought. But who'd he beat? Fucking Rostem, I don't know. You know, Ostem or something like that. Beat him via decision. Then he lost to Rustam Khabilov. Dwight Grant's no Rustam Khabilov, but he's a powerful striker who's got just nauseatingly low output. Really disappointingly low output. I don't know what that is. Could be because he's 37 and he's too old and he doesn't trust his cardio or his overall health as a fighter. Could be because he's relying on that knockout, which he thinks he's going to knock everybody out. But look, he's got knockout power. He does have great power, but I don't know, just it hasn't produced at the UFC level where if that's what he's thinking, it's time to abandon those tactics. And I'm betting on Sergey. I'm betting against Dwight Grant. It's a bet against the 37-year-old who just seems like if he's not going to put you away, you're always within striking. You're always within reach of a decision. You know, he's given up some close fights going back to Zach Otto. And he may not trust himself as much after the knockout loss to Daniel Rodriguez these days. You know, he may be much more cautious, but at 37, I just see one way or another, no matter which direction he decides to go, he's gonna be losing round 3 on Saturday night, and I'm picking against him, taking Sergey via decision. Not gonna bet on it. Next up, Tyson Pedro versus Ike Villanueva. Ike Villanueva is just an awesome fucking brawler. He's got like almost a 500 record. And in the UFC, he's got a much shittier record. I think he's like 1-4. But he's a much older guy, almost 40 years old. And Tyson Pedro, I don't even know how old he is. He's probably around 30 or so. He's been out for 4 years, though. I know he was a young fighter in the UFC first time around. And now he's been out for 4 years. He's coming back. He's still going to be the fresher fighter and, the younger fighter. And I really think he gets it done early in one way or another. My hunch is he's going to win via submission because he's got a really aggressive submission game. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was a TKO or anything else. I think he's obviously the superior grappler. I think he's the superior striker, too, aside from Ike's hands. Ike's hands are his only strength here. But Pedro will be winning the kicking game, clinching game, grappling game. I'm taking Tyson Pedro via submission round 1. Call it a Kimura, just because we've seen one from him before. Next up, Aori Chilang, you know the guy if you're fucking following this, versus Cameron Else. Okay, Aori Chilang. I'm just going to call him Chilang. I had it. I was saying his name right, a few days ago. Now it's just whatever. Aori Chilang. Chilang is moving up the fucking bantamweight here. And he's fighting this guy, Cameron Else. Cameron Else is 10-5. He's only got 3 pro fights that went past round 1, and he lost all of them. So, it's not going to go too well for him. I guess he's the bigger guy on paper, but Aor Chilang, despite being, I think he's 0-2 in the UFC, he's shown to be a game fighter and a good fighter. I'm picking on him to get a submission victory over Cameron Else in round 3 or TKO. Really just a round 3 finish. That's my prediction for this. I think Cameron Else is a guy who's a front runner. And, especially against a smaller fighter, it's going to be pretty discouraging when he's not able to put him away in round 1. I don't even know if he's going to ever have an advantage here, but he's going to absolutely be in trouble once he's at a disadvantage. So I'm predicting on him to fall apart. It wouldn't surprise me if Chilang hit a decision here because he's not, he's not the strongest finisher in the world. But I'm just betting against Cameron Else here. That's why I'm taking the 3rd round. I'm not going to bet on any props or whatever. Obviously, they're worth it if you hit anything in the 3rd round. But I can't tell you how the fight's going to go other than Cameron Else is going to fall apart. So Chi Lang wins, decision, third round finish, whatever. Next up, Marcin Prachnio versus Philip Lins. This is going to be a fucking awesome fight. These guys are both kind of like glass cannons. I think Lins is probably a little more durable. I'm not sure how it's going to go. My prediction is knockout in round 1. I guess I'll take Philip Lins because, he's a little bigger, I think, and he's quicker than Prachnio. And Prachnio was knocked out by Sam Alvey, who does have knockout power, but still, at this point, it's fun to take a cheap shot like that. But this fight is going to be fucking awesome. It's going to give a fight of the night bonus to whoever wins it because the fight's going to end via knockout. Prachnio's got great striking, but he's just a glass cannon. Like I said, he's been knocked out, I think, in every loss he's had in the UFC. And, he's shown some great skills along the way. He beat Khalil Roundtree, that's how it's pronounced now. And he beat Khalil Roundtree pretty soundly. That was surprising as all hell to me. Really surprising that it went the distance, too. And I could be wrong, of course, by betting on the under, but that's my bet here. Under 1.5 rounds, plus 120. I wouldn't be surprised if either one of these guys got knocked out in round 1. So that's really my hunch, is that it ends in under 1.5 rounds. I think there's a lot of value there. I'd be surprised to see this fight go the distance. And I believe that's exactly what I said when he fought Khalil Roundtree. So there you have it. And then the first fight of the night, and the best fight of the entire fucking year, Dean Barry fights Mike Jackson, the photographer. This guy's been out there taking pictures, doing his thing, and now he's ready to show the world his skills again after 4 years ago when he beat CM Punk in the greatest fucking fight there ever was. If you don't believe me, go rewatch it. Look, I don't know what the fuck this is. Maybe he signed like a 2-fight contract or whatever. They just owe him in one way or another. But this fight doesn't belong in the UFC. Everybody knows it. But I'll take it. Why? Because it's going to end in a finish. Dean Barry probably going to knock out Mike Jackson. And the winner is absolutely going to have to fight somebody who is legitimate and proven to be legitimate. So, it doesn't belong in the UFC, and I'm not going to bet on it. My prediction is Dean Barry via knockout round 1. Mike Jackson, you all saw his skill set. This guy is dog shit. Not that I want to fucking hurt his feelings or whatever. I appreciate him trying. He kind of looked like a douchebag in the CM Punk fight, but, for a guy that's not able to put away CM Punk and that was knocked down in 20 seconds by Mickey Gall, I don't see a future for him. So I'm taking Dean Barry via knockout round 1. All right, now I'm going to give you my bets. I like... let's start at the top. I like Amanda Lemos to win via knockout round 1, plus 900. Potential hedge on Jessica Andrade at plus 250. I'll be attaching only because the money line is only available to attach to parlays. I'll be attaching the money line for Amanda Lemos at plus 175 because I think she's going to get the finish. But also there's a small chance she could win a decision in this one. I am taking the under in the co-main event, or what I thought was the co-main event. Kaja Puyes to win via submission is my prediction, and I'm taking the under at 2.5 rounds plus 175. I think that's a pretty good bet because it covers almost all of Puyes' path to victory against Clay Guida. I don't see him on top of Clay Guida, dominating him with jiu-jitsu and not getting a finish. And it covers the bit of a hedge on Clay Guida getting a finish over Puyes. Really, I think Clay Guida, if he wins this fight, it's via decision, so it's not much of a hedge. You can get Guida at decision at plus 150, which, whatever, it's not too enticing. But my prediction and bet is Puyes submission round 1. And my bet is under 2.5 rounds, which I will attach to a parlay with Manel Kopp versus Sue Maderji under 2.5 rounds plus 145. Again, wouldn't surprise me if Kopp even hit a submission in this fight, which this bet covers. But my prediction is Kopp gets a knockout victory. I'm betting on their offense here and not so much their defense. You know, the holes in their defense. Which, if you were to bet on their defense, you'd bet against Sue Maderji's submission defense here. And yeah, the props weren't available for that for Manel Kopp or Sue Maderji, but when there is a Kopp via submission prop there, I'll probably play it if it's pretty steep. Also, Jordan Wright versus Marc-Andre Barrio. I've got that going under 1.5 rounds. I think if Jordan Wright wins, it's first round knockout. I think if Marc-Andre Barrio wins, it's second round knockout. There's a chance it happens in the latter portion of the second round, especially if it's against the cage and whatever. But still, I'm comfortable betting on the under at plus odds. Under 1.5 rounds for a glass cannon like Jordan Wright or Marcin Prachnio or whoever else. It's, Misha Serkinov. These are all just, they scream under to me. And when I can get any under bet at plus money, I bet on it for these guys. So Marc-Andre Barrio, Jordan Wright, plus 120, under 1.5 rounds. Also, speaking of which, Philip Lins versus Marcin Prachnio, under 1.5 rounds, plus 120. And Preston Parsons versus Evan Elder, under 1.5 rounds, plus 135. Again, I'm not the biggest under 1.5 round guy, but I find myself addicted to these bets in this card, because these I see a lot of openings here. These are glass cannons, bona fide glass cannons. Jordan Wright, Marcin Prachnio, and Philip Lins even, although he's whatever. He's not so much a cannon, but a lot of glass here, and I expect a lot of finishes. Those are my bets. I hope you guys enjoy the event. Hope I stop sweating in my fucking car like an animal. And I will talk to you guys on Sunday morning in my bathrobe. See you then.